Hey, hi, Peter Watts Retrospect. How you doing today? Thanks for joining me. Hey, today I want to hopefully do a quick little thing on my two Rolexes, my Explorer 114 270 and my 16610 Submariner. You will find that there's a good handful of different videos online about kind of comparing these. I mean, they're two kind of very different watches, but they're both in that Rolex line of tool watches. Both very iconic for maybe different reasons, but both are very well known. But I want to just give you, my thoughts on it and look at them real quick. And, which one do I really, enjoy more? And like I said, you see quite a bit online about these. And you'd be surprised. Quite a few people seem to prefer the lower, I'll say, financially, money-wise, it's at least a less expensive watch as the Explorer. It's not quite as robust. It's still a very robust watch, but it's not a Submariner. The Submariner's got 300 meters of water resistance. It's got that, triple lock crown. That's incredible. And even though both are kind of very iconic, Submariner is a Submariner is a Submariner. And as iconic as the Explorer is, I think in the annals of horology history, will never be quite considered what the Submariner is, in history. But anyway, before we start, let's see what I do have on. And ironically here, I have two fairly expensive Rolexes, but what I'm wearing is one of my favorite watches. This is probably my second least expensive watch that I own, and it's a Kamasu, Orient Kamasu, and I love this watch. I mean, I am amazed. If you don't know the Kamasu and you only have a few $100s to spend on a dive watch, it's a 200-meter dive watch, this watch is awesome. You can check them out, though, if a lot of you are probably familiar with it. But if you're not and you're in the market for your first automatic watch and only have a few $100 to spend, you'd be a fool not to at least look at these. They're outstanding watches. Like I said, it's one of my favorites, and it's one of my least expensive watches. But anyhow, the difference between these two watches, obviously in size. You got the Explorer here. This is, pretty well known to be the 36 is one of the originals before they started messing around with the size. Is a 36 millimeter, while the Sub is a 40 millimeter dive watch. I when I was younger, my late brother gave me an Explorer back in the very early 80s, and I loved it. It was either a 6610 or a 1016. I have another video about that. It was rebuilt by Rolex back in the day, and it had definitely had a 1016 face on it, but this thing apparently was very old. Not this one that I'm talking about. This is one that I originally had. So when I was in my very early 20s, I was given a Rolex Explorer. And my brother had, and all his friends had Submariners. And I always kind of looked at the Submariner as just being a higher up model, I guess you could say a better watch, more desirable watch. It's, like I said, it's worth more. But it was still a great watch. I used to love it. And unfortunately in the early 2000s, I sold it and always regretted it because, well, 1016s, what they're worth today. And I probably let that go for a couple of grand. But anyway, after that, I did find myself buying Submariners, all like a 16610, and I even had a 16613 two-tone, which was the last one I had. And that one broke my heart. I sold that one in 2019 and always regretted it because obviously the price doubled, within a couple of years. And it was like, why did I do that? But finally in 2022, I kind of came into a situation where I could afford the Explorer. I could not afford a Submariner at the time, but I don't want to use the word settled, but I guess that's what I'll use, is that I settled for the Explorer. And so I've had this watch for we'll be pushing just about 2 years now. And it's a fantastic watch. It's a fantastic watch. But I always still, the Submariner, and I have some other videos about that, was always my grail watch. And I kind of always had that tug to replace my Submariner. And a few months ago, miraculously, and I mean miraculously, I came into the funds to be able to afford one. And here she is. This is an '08 model Submariner. Like I said, 16610. This is a This one here, I don't have the paperwork. I'm going to say it's at the late '07 or an early or '08. It does have the engraved rehot, which my Explorer, which is an '07, doesn't have. Later on in '07, they started, you can find some Explorers that have the engraved rehot. And I kind of like that. I think when I got this one, I was kind of excited that I kind of got, the tail end of the 16610. And, so I got, something that was as new. Apparently with the engraved rehot, even on these later Submariners, they were doing they were changing that hairspring. And so this, as far as I know, is updated as the 3135 movement ever got. But like I said, I always felt kind of slighted with the Explorer that it just wasn't a Submariner. And that saying, something's been, you've been searching and searching and it's been under your nose the whole time. Kind of like you've been looking for that woman or guy all these years, and geez, next thing you know, the neighbor next door you end up marrying the neighbor next door who's been there for 15 years and you just never knew. And things fall in place. Next thing you know, geez, he or she was right underneath my nose the whole time. And that's how I kind of feel now that I got my Submariner. I absolutely love this watch. Like I said, I really regretted selling mine. Like I said, in 2019, I sold it. And since then, I just always regretted it. And, I had the Explorer and I loved it, but I still something was still, just pulling at me to replace that and get that Submariner. And now that I got this Submariner, and I love it. I don't think I would trade it I wouldn't trade it, that's for sure. Now that I got it, I certainly have no intentions of ever letting it go. But let me say something. It's just, now that I have both of them, I'll tell you, if I put them both on, I don't leave the house wearing two watches, but, if I'm floating around the house, I will put two watches on, maybe just to keep them both wound. They're automatic watches, obviously. And what I found is that if I put both of these watches on, I'm telling you, my eyes go to the Explorer. This dial is just as simple as it is, how minimalistic as it is. It's just, I don't know, it comes across, it's just it's a classier dial. It is a classier dial. And I have to say this one thing is that it just makes me smile more. It makes me smile more than the Rolex. I think as a sum of parts, if the sum of the parts, the Submariner is a better watch. It's a more robust watch. Again, it's got that triple lock crown. It has a date function and it has the the timing bezel, and it's a higher. It ranks higher than an Explorer. They're both iconic in their own right. The Explorer is in its, like I said, in its own right is iconic, but it's not a sub. It will never be a sub as far as in the annals of horology history. It just really won't. But I don't know. All I know is if both of these are laying side by side, I honestly seem to get more joy wearing that Explorer. I really do. And that seems, I'm not the only one that says that. And I just kind of want to, say that these people aren't nuts. They are not nuts. I know my late brother had both. He had one of each of these back in the day. And in the early 90s, he actually sold the Submariner and kept his Explorer. And I always wondered why. And now that I got them both, it's not that I'm looking that I go sell this sub, but all I know is I just smile more when I have this Explorer on. So let's take a look at them on. We're going to make this a quick one. And just to see how they fit. Obviously the Explorer is a 36, and to me, it comes across, sometimes it comes across small. I have about a 7-inch wrist, and I prefer like a 39-40. I think that is my sweet spot. Probably a lot of people's sweet spot, but I'm sorry, this watch still just fits me still very well. Very inconspicuous. Just hugs the wrist. And, it is smaller. You're not walking into the doorknobs and doorways, in your house with the darn thing on. It's just a very nice fitting watch. Look at that, and then let's compare that to the sub. And the sub, proportions. And like I said, the sum of the parts, I love it. It's just an outstanding fitting watch. Again, not as snug as as the as the Explorer is, but yet it's still just a really, really nice watch. Obviously, the way it fits. I think this is a pre-ceramic one, and these are definitely thinner and smaller. They're not as bulky and blocky as the newer ones are. And I kind of really, and a lot of people do. There's a lot of people that compare the pre-ceramic to the ceramic ones, and I'm definitely sold on these pre-ceramic watches, and I absolutely love it. But again, you look at that Explorer, those look at that thing, just melts in there. But you know, you wouldn't go wrong in either one of these watches, obviously. But I don't know, just want to kind of confirm with what a lot of people say on these things. It's just I think it's a better fitting watch, all in all. Definitely inconspicuous. It definitely flies under the radar, and I think that's one of the beauties of it. And I don't know, personally, I think I'm in the best of both worlds to have one of each, because they are different. I mean, this is that watch when you want to be discreet, or you're going someplace, you know, in a place you don't want people to really notice your watch, or hell, they might, jump you for the darn thing. Where the Submariner, you walk in, anywhere you go, you just, at least you kind of sense it. I mean, maybe half of it's in our head, but people notice this watch. You know, it's one of the most recognizable watches in the world. It really is. And it's a stupendous watch. It's a great watch. And like I said, I would never trade it. But just to confirm what other people say, and people that actually like the Explorer better, no one's crazy for that. Not at all. I mean, this is just a wonderful, wonderful watch. And that dial, I think I prefer the baton, the rectangular indices better than the dots. And that 369, we all know that. That's iconic. There's very, very early Submariners that actually had an Explorer dial on it with that 369. They never made an Explorer that had a sub dial, but they did do the 369 on some of the very first Submariners that came out there in very early 50s there. But my goodness, this watch is just a beautiful, beautiful watch. And anybody that prefers this over a Submariner, they're not crazy. They're not crazy. To me, I got, like I said, the best of both worlds to have one of each, and I feel incredibly blessed to have them. And, I want to hang on to these, for years and years to come. They're meant to be heirlooms, to be handed down to my son when I'm finally out of here. And I'm just thrilled to have them both. But anybody that thinks an Explorer is better than a Sub, or at least not better, I would say the Submariner is a better watch, but anybody that enjoys an Explorer more is not insane by any stretch. And again, though, it's an argument for the Sub. The Sub is, like I said, the Sub is a Sub, and the way it fits, its presence and everything is absolutely outstanding. And I wouldn't trade, I wouldn't want to get rid of either one of these. But if you're thinking of either one of these, and you're, looking at all the different videos, some of you might be surprised that people kind of pick the Explorer over it. But to me, that's not a surprise anymore at all, because they both are great. But there's still something about this dial that just screams class, total class. Like I said, flies under the radar. It's not a flex watch in any way. No one knows what this is. You walk, people that don't know watches, they see a Submariner, they kind of say, oh, that kind of looks like a Rolex that they've seen on billboards and what have you. But this watch here, the fact that it's so discreet, so handsome, to me it is. It's classy, it's handsome, and again, both of them are very versatile. Will go with almost any attire, but this watch even more so. But anyway, I'm gonna close there and say, hey, if you want to save a couple of thousand, just buy the Explorer, seriously. And again, you're not going to go wrong. But again, I feel blessed that I got them both, and I think it's just the cornerstone of my collection. These are really my only two, I would call luxury watches that I own. Next best watch I have is probably my Doxa 300T, but these are my only two, what you really consider, a high-end luxury watch, and I just love them. They're just both great. But don't be surprised when you see people kind of picking this Explorer over the Sub. But anyway, That's my last thought on it, and I really appreciate you stopping by. Thank you so much.